Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Semifinals as the Washington Wizards host the Boston Celtics. Welcome into this edition of the Celtics pregame report with Josue Pavone. I'm joined by CSN Mid-Atlantic's Chris Miller to preview tonight's crucial game as the series shifts to the nation's capital. Chris, thanks for checking in.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
So Game 2's historic battle between Isaiah Thomas and John Wall really elevated the intensity of this series, as if it wasn't already intense enough. Thomas's 53-point performance is ranked as one of the best playoff performances in Celtics playoff history. Have you seen anything like this before? And if so, who?
The only thing that I can remember was LeBron James closing out the Pistons a couple of years ago. The first time he was in Cleveland, where he scored, I think, like 29 straight points to close out that game. Where there was absolutely nothing the other team could do defensively to stop LeBron. But for Isaiah to do it, scoring his 29 in the fourth of overtime was truly remarkable, because it just seemed like he wasn't tired, and it just seemed like the Wizards were battered, fatigued, and really could do nothing to stop him. When he found out Markieff Morris with that little double pump, catch it, and then shoot it, and it went in, that was a sign where you're like, hey, nothing could go wrong for him. So I would say probably the LeBron closeout game against the Pistons would probably be the closest thing I've seen.
So after Game 2, I got a chance to ask Wizards head coach Scott Brooks about Bradley Beal's poor shooting. And he sort of accused the Celtics of constantly having their hands on him and said that he will make adjustments for Game 3. But what do you make of those comments that he made after the game?
Well, I mean, you got to defend your player, clearly, because Brad struggled from the field, and he turned the basketball over. I was a little more concerned with the turnovers, the 6 of them that he had, than the poor shooting night, because obviously you knew that the Celtics are going to make an adjustment. They have determined that John can get his, but John can't get his and also have Brad get his also. So you give Boston credit for making that adjustment. Listen, they were physical with Brad. Brad's just got to make that adjustment, but the 6 turnovers to me have to be cleaned up. 2 of those 6 passes were cross-court passes where it's extremely difficult to pull that off in a league where you've got some of the greatest athletes on the planet. So the adjustment has to be counteract their physicality and lessen the amount of turnovers.
CLNS Radio's Celtics pregame report is being powered by the SeatGeek ticketing app, the smartest and easiest way to buy and sell sports and concert tickets. Get a $20 rebate on your first purchase by downloading the free SeatGeek app to your phone. Go to the settings tab and click add a promo code and enter the code CELTSNEWS. That's CELTSNEWS, all one word, for a $20 rebate, and so SeatGeek knows who sent you. Chris, what do the Wizards need to do in order to get back into the series?
Well, I think what they've done in the first 2 games in Boston was they set the tone, which was great. 16-0 run to start Game 1. They scored 42 points in the first quarter of Game 2. So they've had really good starts. It's sustaining that as much as possible. And I think with the home crowd behind them now, if they're able to get off these good starts again, they'll be able to sustain it because the crowd is into it. The role players always play better at home. So that's one adjustment that I want to see, is just sustaining what they've been able to do, because when you think about it, listen, the Wizards had 2 opportunities to win Game 2. John missed a jumper. The ball kicked out to Brad. Brad had an opportunity. He shot an air ball jumper to win it. So you think if that Brad shot goes in, the series is tied at 1-1. The narrative is completely different going into Game 3. But the Wizards still have to have confidence knowing that the next 2 games are at the Verizon Center. And everything is kind of held serve the way it did in the regular season. Both teams took care of business on their home court.
Who do you think wins Game 2?
I think this is going to be tied at 2 going up to Boston for Game 5. I think the Wizards are an angry bunch. I think they're a battered bunch, which makes them a dangerous bunch. I think it's going to end up 2-2.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if I see that, Chris, honestly, man. But the way this series is going, I think this is going to be a long one.
You think this will be a long series?
Yeah, I think it's going to go to 7. I do. I just don't think the Wizards are just going to roll over here. I really do think it's going to be I wouldn't be surprised if they tie things up in Washington and head back to Boston with the series tied at two games apiece.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I said. I think it will be 2-2 going to Boston for Game 5. I agree.
All right, he is Chris Miller of Comcast Sportsnet Mid-Atlantic. You can follow him on Twitter at CMillsCSN. That's at CMillsCSN on Twitter. Chris, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for stopping by. Let's do this again sometime.
All right, man, no problem. Safe travels down to D.C.
Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Celtics pregame report. I want to thank Chris once again for joining me, and to everyone who tuned in to yet another pregame report. Tonight's postgame show will air immediately following tonight's game on CLNSradio.com. You can call in toll-free at 347-215-7771 after the game to get on the airwaves, or just like this show, you can listen to it on demand anytime, any place, anywhere on the CLNS Radio mobile app. Be sure to tune into Celtics Beat on Sunday as Larry H. Russell will get you ready for Game 4 between the Celtics and the Wizards. Weekday shows air on the Celtics Newsfeed channel, on iTunes, Stitcher, and the CLNS Radio mobile app. For today's Boston Celtics pregame report with Josue Pavone, this is Josue Pavone signing off.